One of the defining moments where I realized I was wrong was learning that pride was the worst of the 7 deadly sins. Brigading has always been toxic, predatory, and perverted.
Oh, I was wrong. I was wrong. This is content. This is great. Pride is the worst of all the 7 deadly sins. I'm going to relate that to the gays. It's time to take on the queer community. Here we go. I just want to play 2 seconds of this because I'm just curious. I didn't even know that Poop Girl was an atheist.
Because they want to do whatever they want and have no consequences. If you don't believe in God,
Don't worry,
His
it's not a
commandments,
bit. It's not a
sin, or
segment.
hell, then you
I'm just
don't
curious.
have to worry about living a sinful lifestyle or feeling guilty for your actions. This was not the case for me. Everything I'm about to tell you is, of course, from my own experience and my perspective. Being an atheist was one of the most terrifying things I ever put myself through, and I did it for more than a decade. Because I was so ignorant and uninformed, I feared what it would mean to go to hell.
Wait, what the fuck? Aren't they like the monarchists? Isn't Liberty Hangout like hardcore, like, we must revert to the queen, all hail the queen?
Of burning in hell or the reality of Satan. But that did not make my fears of those 2 things go away. The most memorable fear I had was dying. The thought of my death terrified me. Did I really live just to be put in the ground? Is my whole existence going to end with worms eating my brain? And the worst part was thinking, what would my family endure after death? Would I really never...
Yeah. Okay. Before I see who just read it, I just want to say, Kaitlin, are you 12? Are you a 12-year-old? Or maybe 10? I think I was 9 when I used to be really, really scared in that way, where every day I would be like, I don't know if I'm going to die or what happens after death. I'm genuinely afraid. I don't know if I would come to that conclusion now. I've pretty much accepted that death is actually a part of life. Without it, we would not exist. So, like, what the fuck?
Foresee them again. Unknown to my 12-year-old brain, rejecting the goodness of God's light for the sake of trying to minimize my fears of hell would lead me to exacerbate my anxieties and fears surrounding this topic. You see, what would always occupy my mind was the question, what if I'm wrong? And that is an uncomfortable feeling to live with as a teenager and young adult. I firmly believe that anyone who proudly boasts their atheism is trying to convince themselves that they're right, not the people they're boasting to, and that comes from experience. Even though it scared me, I had always heard that if you reject God to your friends, then He will reject you from heaven. Well, I had already done that, so why would I stop? Unfortunately for me, I did not grasp the depth and beauty of what Jesus' death meant for people like me. I truly had no understanding whatsoever of His mercy, His sacrifice, and ultimately His forgiveness. Until now. When I would get mobbed on college campuses by hundreds of liberals, I would constantly have anti-Christian remarks hurled at me. The students would accuse me of being a Bible thumper, a stupid Christian, and you get the point. But when I would tell them I'm actually an atheist, they would be shocked and almost seem a little more accepting of me.
I was totally doing it to, you know, trigger them because they didn't know how to deal with it. When I triggered them with my atheism, it was edgy. Yeah.
One time, a guy actually backed off from berating me in a mob of 400 people when I shared that information about myself, and it did not make me feel good at all. How could I possibly align with people who treat others with no dignity? I was actually so embarrassed of myself.
Okay, so this is sped up, but what the fuck is this background music? I need to hear it in normal.
That would make sure those parts never made it into the final video that was released to you all. Even when I was an atheist, I always believed in right and wrong, and good and evil. One issue I've always been very passionate about is that I'm anti-abortion. I've always recognized that every human life is sacred, but could not justify my position without God.
Unless they're not white. Then, let's bomb them.
It seems so obvious to me that some actions in this world are blatantly evil, but how could I say this if there was nothing in the universe to decide what's absolutely right and wrong? If, in the end, nothing matters, then why would it matter right now?
What is with this is such a small nitpick annoyance, but why are you continuously switching between shots when they're so strikingly similar? All you've done is put another camera beside the other camera at a slight angle. It's like, no, it's cool, you know, this is what's called a 2-shot.
I battled with those feelings internally, wondering if I truly believe there's no God, why do I feel so ashamed for saying it out loud? It's because the truth about God, Jesus, and our creation is written on our hearts for us to search for Him and ultimately end up finding the truth that is so apparent if you just seek it. I'm sure many of you are asking what
Camera
made
two.
me convert.
Camera
I'm
one.
sure you can guess that the answer isn't that I had a magical experience.
Why did you cut back and forth? I don't know what's worse, the camera work or the editing. What the fuck?
That just changed my mind one day, and I've been blessed ever since. Instead, it started years ago with my incredibly devout Catholic husband. We married in the Catholic Church in 2020 because he wanted to make sure our marital vows were sealed by Christ and fulfilled through the sacrament of holy matrimony. I had no idea how
I'm all for, like, please enjoy religion, enjoy ceremony, enjoy whatever you want. I'm just saying, from a time perspective, a traditional full Orthodox Catholic wedding, oh wow, it is so long. It is so long. You have to sit through so much, like, fucking incense and chanting and, like, endless ceremony. It's a very long affair.
important that was back then, but I'm so thankful today that he ensured that happened. Over the next year, I would continue to reject religion altogether until he asked me to attend Mass with him for probably the 500th time, and I begrudgingly agreed. Now, if you've ever been to a Catholic Mass, you might understand what I mean when I say I had a lot of questions about
I was going to be like, how in the world? Because I have been to Mass many times in my life for a variety of reasons. And I'm just going to say this as someone who has been, and I'm really hoping that certain family members aren't listening to the speech right now. I've never been religious, and I was not raised in a religious family. My parents were always either agnostic or atheist, but I do have religious relatives, and I've had religious partners before, and I've also had religious family members of partners. But anyways, a Catholic Mass, oh wow. If you walk into one of those things for the very first time, it does not make you see the light. It is like, I've never been to a cult meeting, but I imagine it's got to be something similar. Or just one of those, like, from the chants to the vinegar and the oil to the blood of Christ to consume the flesh to the fire and the brimstone to the learning about original sin, and then like just consistently everyone knows the lyrics to exactly what has to be said out loud because they all say it in chorus, but it's not even a song. It's like, yes, and I know for I am the original sinner and my sin is the one that is like, and you're just like, whoa, yeah, like you never sit there thinking like, oh, okay, this is. Yeah, okay, maybe I do have some questions, about the universe, about where we all come from. And I mean, I do like the idea of God's love. And don't get me wrong, I have been to the kind of churches in New York where they sing. That feels, I'm sorry, like a holy experience. That feels a lot closer to like you feel the love of God and you just want to dance and you just want to sing and participate. That is a very different experience than sitting there while like people are giving like, Gregorian chants and the incense are burning, and then like everyone is continuously just looking like they're in tears at times. Like when they get really into it, people are just straight up like, I am a sinner, I have sinned, the true taste of flesh is upon me. And it's like, yeah, this is not selling me on this whole aesthetic. It's not for me, to be honest with you. I got enough problems in my life. Don't need to constantly be thinking about how evil I am in every single way, and how I need to have my sins absolved by the big one upstairs, especially the sitting and the confessing, and then the flating, all the flagellating. Well, I mean, I wish it was, just by saying that out loud, just by saying flating out loud, I have sinned. So now I'm going to have to flagellate myself later in order to absolve that sin with the cat o' nine tails and fucking the rosaries and all this shit. Like it's just too much work. It's fucking, I don't get enough sleep. Okay, it's just too many things. Too much.
About the faith and the traditions of Catholicism. So I started asking them. Then I would ask the same questions to many of my non-Catholic and even non-Christian friends. For months, I would just ask an incredible amount of questions and realized I literally knew nothing about Christianity. Of course, I rejected it for years. How could I accept something that I didn't realize I knew nothing about? The more I learned about the truth, the more the lens that I saw the world through changed. One of the defining moments where I realized I was wrong was learning that pride was the worst of the 7 deadly sins. Pride has always been toxic, predatory, and perverted.
Oh, I was wrong. This is content. This is great. Fucking pride is the worst of all the 7 deadly sins. I'm going to relate that to the gays. It's time to take on the queer community. Here we go. And then I realized everything made sense. I found the right kind of hatred. Holy hatred. Holy hatred, Kaitlin. Yes, you can now, you can hate with the highest of hatreds. Oh my, beautiful.
Even from a secular point of view, it is not a coincidence that a lifestyle ingrained in depression, suicide, sinful behavior, and regret is given the title of the most deadly sin, and then forced down our throats by every major corporation and social media platform, and then targeted to child audiences. That doesn't happen by coincidence. Now, I'm sure you all want me to get to the story of what was the turning point in my life that really brought me to...
I don't know. Maybe like I'm just built different, but I would think in my kind of like spiritual awakening confession video, which obviously appeals to a certain demographic, I wouldn't want to talk about kids committing suicide.
Leftist pagan solidarity.
Hagbard, Celine, I completely agree. Hail Satan, leftist pagan solidarity. Thank you for gifting a sub to Callous Cast. I really appreciate that. And sorry, yeah, that wouldn't be really high in my list of things. I definitely wouldn't be like, holy shit, you know, now's the time. Now's the fucking time to talk about that stuff. This is worse than fucking Milos. I mean, Milos was just kind of sad because he had to be like, oh, you know, darling, I've got myself I've got the sodomy stone. I'm going to take off the sodomy stone. It was roughly about $50,000, darling. It was truly a fabulous little piece of architecture. But now I'm going to be throwing that into the water, of course, because I don't like this lifestyle anymore. And then I'm going to be doing conversion. Conversion, yes, darling. It's going to be wonderful. That was like the extent of it. And you were just like, oh, this is sad. This is sad. This is really sad because, you know what, Milo? I genuinely don't believe you. I do not, you know. As a fellow person who be attracted to men, I do not think that switch can just be turned off. I don't. It's not a valve. You don't just go and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, yeah, that's great. No more. I cast you asunder.
To where I am. Right after we renewed our wedding vows in St. Augustine earlier this year, we arrived home to find my 5-year-old kitty, Halsey, acting strange and throwing up. Long story short, Halsey ended up in the emergency room for an entire week.
Do you think the phrase shoving it down our throats is subtle queerphobia? No. Nah, because the straights do that shit too. That's not something directly associated exclusively with LGBTQ. She feels like a character written for It's Always Sunny. Yeah. You know what? That's astute. Good point, Roman Bear. I actually completely agree with that. She definitely feels like it's an It's Always Sunny character. With everything. Like, they're very juvenile with their humor, too. So from the shitting yourself all the way over to the, like, I'm now going to convert to Christianity because I want to hate more. Because it sounds great. Now I can finally justify my hatred for the gays.
With a suspected diagnosis of cancer. You can imagine how I took this news considering how much I love my cat. I went into a state of such...
This has the production quality and the aesthetics of like the videos that open in hotels when you turn on the TV for the first time. And it's just like, welcome to Cabo. We're very pleased to have you.
Sadness, hopelessness, and anxiety that I actually developed a skin condition that was lurking in my DNA waiting to be triggered by a traumatic event. During this time, Justin offered to pray with me for Halsey to return home to us. So I did. Praying to Saint Francis of Assisi, who is the patron saint of animals, was the only thing that brought me peace.
This was lacking an actual fucking miracle, but here we go. Here's an actual fucking miracle. It's gonna resurrect your cat or some shit.
It was the only time of day that I felt that no matter what ended up happening, I would be alright.
Yeah, God magic to save the cat.
Able to calm my anxieties. It also helped me ask more questions about how prayer works, how you're supposed to pray, and what you're supposed to expect from God when He answers your prayers. I do admit I feel a little vulnerable sharing this with you all because I know it sounds silly to be brought to my knees in prayer over my cat when there are several other issues in this world that I should have been praying for.
No, that part's not silly. That's not, I completely understand that. A lot of people in desperate times, especially for a beloved pet, will turn to prayer. That's completely normal. It's more that this whole thing provoked you to realize, oh wow, God is there, and God wants me to hate the gays?
For all along, that do seem much more important than my cat getting sick. However, this must have been the journey I was meant to take, and I can't regret the path that brought me to where I am today. And evidently, our prayers for Halsey worked. We were able to bring her home and get our crazy-eyed girl back with us with absolutely no answers as to what made her so sick.
Oh shit, we got it! We got a miracle! God magic! It was missing God magic. I'm glad we're here. God magic, little sprinkle of God magic over the whole thing, and then presto changeo, the cat is risen. It's Catarus, Lazarus, or whatever you want to call it. This is good. This is good. Yes, and yea, saith the stooleth.
Is that my husband has been praying for years for my conversion and an opportunity for me to see Christ in action, and that may have been exactly what happened. After falling on my knees in prayer in such a dark time, I now fall on my knees in prayer when I am overly joyful and thankful for the blessings I have today, which
that would be weird, you know? Like someone at Starbucks is like, oh, here you go, Kaitlin. It's like, oh, you spilt my coffee right. Oh, thank the Lord. I fell to my knees.
Of course, includes my Halsey girl. I'd like to give you some advice from a former atheist, specifically on how to raise your children to not end up like me.
Okay.
It starts by praying together every day as a family and making sure Christ is put first in your household. Creating traditions that last for decades into their adult lives and eventually into their own families
Seems like
ensures
a lot
they
of work.
never have to go to bed with anxieties about their eternal life. I wish I had discovered the truth earlier in my life, but I am humbled to know that even a sinner like me was never forgotten by God. In the months since, I decided to commit my life fully to Christ and am currently going through RCIA to convert to Catholicism. Some of you may be wondering, why the Catholic faith and not just Christian or non-denominational? In the beginning of this video, I mentioned that I asked several different types of Christians and non-Christians the same question.
This music.
The only answers that made sense were from the Catholic perspective. It is the only faith that can answer questions about the origins of the universe, the compatibility between faith and science, the way God reveals himself to mankind, the meaning behind sacred scripture, and the way in which he communicates his spirit to us sacramentally today. And the greatest thing is that it traces all the way back to Christ himself through a clear succession of the apostles, so that we can be 100% confident that we are receiving the same Jesus as Peter and Paul 2,000 years ago, in exactly the same manner that he intended. As my priest would say, the other versions of Christianity.
Yeah, it's kind of funny when you talk about the schisms in Christianity, and also what led to the schisms, and also some of the more bloody moments in Christian history, because modern Christianity and modern Christians are not as bad as they used to be. We're not talking about like the Inquisition era, where they would actually hunt down the non-Christians and stuff of that nature, but she wants old-timey, it sounds like, you know, old-timey God, some real Abrahamic fire and brimstone kind of shit, the kind that punishes the gays adequately.
Christianity that broke off from Catholicism failed to trace themselves back to more than a couple hundred years and failed to answer life's most important questions. When I'm seeking information, I want the full answer. I want to know as much as I can. I want the proof to back it up. And when it comes to Jesus Christ, I want to receive him fully. None other than Christ's one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church built on his rock Peter offered that to me. And none other than the Catholic faith gave proper respect to Jesus' mother, Mary, who said yes to Christ before anyone else. In addition to all of these things, I married my husband because I trust him.
Peter's rock. I want to appreciate and experience him fully. Am I the only one that thinks that this line of speaking is just overtly strange?
I trust him to be loyal to me. I trust him to love me, to protect me, but most importantly, to guide me as the man of the house. I fully trust that his love for me would never have him leading me down a path that wasn't the very best for my eternal life. I urge you to attend a Catholic Mass, ask the parishioners questions, and immerse yourself in the history and tradition of the Church, which is the only church that dates back to the foundations built by Christ himself.
Oh!
Then you'll understand for yourself. Thank you all for being so incredibly patient with me as I have stepped away from the toxic political culture I found myself wrapped up in, and I thank you for allowing me to share my journey with you.
Wait, are you also leaving the game? Man, everyone is cashing out now, I feel. Like everyone's just like, you know what, I'm going maximum grift. I'm going to sell whatever you want, you fucking casinos, you name it, and I'm out. I want to start doing, like, is this just going to become a Christian channel? Or are you not doing the campus shit anymore? Not going to be asking about what triggers the libs or what makes this or the big trans agenda or any of that kind of stuff? You're just gonna stick to making a Christian channel? Maybe join Milo selling fucking statues of Mary? There's a massive statue of Mary to have in your backyard too, by the way. Whew, that was intense. That was more wild than I thought it would be.
This will come down to who can deliver the lower propensity and mid propensity voters.
our gods, Xander Corvus and Peyton L. Just, we will build a ladder to heaven to deliver you the daily news. To our monarch, Tom Spiker, we are your most humble of clownish jesters. To our lords, Trevor R. and Alexander Thaler, you have our undying fealty. To our knights of the round table, Nate, that one guy, Hagbird Celine, Matthew Scarborough, Stellar Vision, Ariana McCarthy, Daniel Sutton, Ants Are Still Running the World, Coulter Smith, Tom Groh, Val 9000, Jenna Tal, Quiet 185, Anna Loves Riley, Riley and Anna, Omni, Poodlehawk, The Tim Caucus, Multimondi, Trevor Janis, Lemmy 101, Anthropophojack, Saren 42, Chronic to Hemphog, Catherine, Radical Maniac, Ramon Acosta, Incosin, Violent Orchard, Sophie Baby, Political Puppy, Andreas Chiringuito, Zach Christensen, Josh Mickelson, Todd Buckingham, and Todd Lajeunesse. We shall meet you in the tavern, and we raise a drink, and we salute you.